this last weekend, if we're going to recap the action that went down at Madison Square Garden for UFC 295, the main card had all finishes. They combined for roughly 20 minutes worth of total fight time. It was nothing short of amazing if you're looking at it from an entertainment value perspective. Let's just run it down from top to bottom with a few of the notes that at least stood out to me. In the main event, obviously, you had Alex Pereira taking on Yuri Prohaska. Now, the stoppage, definitely controversial. I think it was a little bit early, especially for a title fight. You would love to see it. You want to see it be definitive. You want to have it not leave any sort of questions out there. Yuri was still kind of moving around, and I get what the people on the opposite of that argument are going to say when they make the claim. Well, Yuri said in his post fight interview that, yeah, it was a good stoppage. He was out. Yes, I understand. But that's also, you're talking about Yuri being a very quote unquote like honorable and noble type of samurai and martial artist. He's not going to go and show it up by stating, "Oh no, it was bad," blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Yuri just isn't really that type of guy. Hence, him relinquishing the title as soon as he was injured in the first place. But as we mentioned last week, Yuri is hittable. He's awkward, and that's going to create issues for everybody that he fights, which that allowed for him to have some success against Pineda, but him also being so hittable was ultimately to his detriment, as Poatan was then able to get his hand raised and become one of the very few double champions in the history of the UFC. Now, that's a question that I have for all of you out there listening. How do you see, or where do you see Alex Pereira on the all-time MMA list now that at just this short time into his MMA and certainly his UFC career, he now has two world championships in two divisions. He has two championships, two divisions in the UFC. He's also, keep in mind, before he made that transition, a simultaneous double weight class champion in Glory Kickboxing. Where does he rank all time in terms of your list of one UFC champions, and then also open that up to where is he on the list of greatest combat sports athletes of all time? We have the few other examples to draw from. Obviously, Israel was a highly accomplished and highly touted champion prior to making that transition. But you have others out there who have the different combat sports world experience, like your Henry Cejudos, your Ronda Rousey, so on and so forth. Given that he has the resume that he does, now, where does Alex Poatan Pereira rank all time for combat sports athletes? Let us know. You could hit us up on the Jocko Go Fuel line at 303-831-1340. Let me know on social media. That's me, Jordan Kurtz, at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Interested in hearing your thoughts on that one. In the co-main event, we talked about how fast the average fight time per each of these guys were for Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich. Coming into this contest, they had a combined average fight time of under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I believe one was like 2:19, the other 2:23, something along those lines. Under 2.5, though, one way or the other. This fight followed right in line with that trend that they had for each of their respective careers. Both guys came out. They were throwing heavy heat. Those are two massive heavyweights, two guys that are both 6'5", and I'll be completely honest, Aspinall is bigger than I thought that he was. I thought that Pavlovich was going to have a considerable or at least a noticeable size advantage. He did not. Tom Aspinall looked that big, just as quick, and he has more layers to the game. I just didn't think that on the feet he was going to be fast enough or going to be able to withstand the storm that was going to come right away from Pavlovich. And Pavlovich landed. Pavlovich did have Aspinall hurt, but Aspinall was ultimately able to recover from that and find his blow that sent Pavlovich tumbling down to the canvas, and then the action was stopped. That is going to be an interesting fight with whomever it may ultimately materialize with. Stipe Miocic was there in the crowd. He was asked, who would you rather have the opportunity to go against? And he still maintains he wants that John Jones fight, which I don't blame him. That's a legacy fight. That, regardless of Aspinall, which that's a completely different argument by itself. You could say that, yeah, the interim title being slapped on that keeps the division moving. It drew a little bit of extra attention, sure, but it's more or less that was a glorified number one contenders fight, because we know that from all indications, once John is back healthy, Stipe is the fight that's going to be made with John next, and John being the undisputed champion. How does that sift out when you have an interim champion out there? Good question. Moving on down the card, you have Jessica Andrade knocking out Mackenzie Dern. Listen, we said that we knew that Andrade's power was going to be a wild card in this situation. It was going to be also a test for Mackenzie now that Ruka's gone. This is the first camp that she's had to kind of figure out some different things on her own there. And she did look like there was some regression within her striking. She entered and exits a lot of exchanges, even more so or more pronounced in this fight with her chin high. Maybe that was because she was fighting with so much more emotion due to the personal situation that she was going through that was well known or well spoken about during the fight week media opportunities. I don't know, but I do know that if you decide to get into a firefight and trade 4-ounce leather with Jessica Andrade, it's probably not going to be a good night for you inside of the octagon. And she found that out firsthand. Also on the main card, you had Benoit Saint-Denis cementing himself as a serious prospect to keep into your consideration in the lightweight division when he knocked out Matt the Steamroller Frivola. That head kick was beautiful. The way that Frivola was trying to get on his bike and exit right in the cage, Benoit Saint-Denis just had a perfectly timed head kick, clips him right above the brow, sends him down to the canvas, finishes him off there. That was a highlight reel performance within itself. And to open up the main card, you had Diego Lopez starching Pat Sabatini. Diego Lopez is a serious threat in that featherweight division. I think very highly of Pat Sabatini. I think that he's underrated on the feet, and he's one of the best grapplers that 145 has to offer. And Diego Lopez went out there and just completely put the screws to him in that fight. You had a matchup that was back and forth that had a little bit of controversy in it, with Lupi taking on Tabitha Ricci. Lupi Godinez, she's on her way to making history. We're going to talk a little bit more about that throughout the rest of the program there. But that was a back and forth affair that Lupi had a lot of strong control moments throughout the fight, but she also got clipped a couple of times against Tabitha, which probably led to the topsy-turvy scores that we saw that we'll talk more about. And then we also mentioned last week that a fight for the hardcores, a fight for the purists that we were interested in seeing, was Jared Gordon taking on Marco Madsen. Now, Jared Gordon won by KO. He cut an incredible promo to just speak on the power of chasing your dreams. His backstory is well known at this point, that he went through a considerable amount of violence and abuse as a child growing up, then was a homeless drug addict. He spoke about how he used to shoot heroin underneath Madison Square Garden at that subway station, to now him going out there and chasing his dreams, knocking somebody out inside of the mecca of all sports entertainment at Madison Square Garden. So, it was an incredible moment. What did you guys think of the card this last weekend? Let us know on Instagram at Comments from the Peanut Gallery, or hit us up on the Jocko Go hotline at 303-831-1340. Stick around after the break, folks. I'm Jordan Kurtz. This is the MMA Plug, presented to you by the Fan Cave on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio.
Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. That helps us continue to produce this original MMA content and bring it for you every single week. Tune in to the MMA Plug presented by Fan Cave on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio.